Hi, Glenn. Hello. Okay, so today, I think we will work on some problem solving. So we will solve some programming problems. We won't learn any new content. We just solve, I think, 3 to 4 problems. Because I think it's hard to just assign problems and wait for people to go back home and solve them by themselves. So I think we can solve them together. So did you do this? Way to learn words, this one. Did you do the question or you haven't done the question yet? Hi, Kara. I'm Mr. Kingsland. So we are all here now. Okay.
Hello, hello. Hope everybody's doing well.
So I think let's begin. So today we will work on I think 3 questions. These 3 questions. We'll start from this words. Okay, way to learn words, this question. I think I assigned it at the end of last meeting, so you can just read the question for you. Or have anyone already done the work or what? Sorry guys, I didn't share my screen. Yeah, that's when. Okay. Yeah, this is correct. Okay. Okay. So this is the question that we'll be working on first. Oh, okay. Okay, let's enter the co-share so we can work on this together. Okay. So if the word's length is strictly more than 10 characters, and the word will be replaced with a special abbreviation, which is the first letter and the last letter. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So it will be the length of characters between the first and the last. Yeah, numbers of characters in between. Okay. So that's it. So there's one useful function. So if we have a string, wait, what's the syntax? Syntax doesn't work. Okay. For some reason, the syntax doesn't work. String, and we can get the length by doing string.length. Yeah, this is a function to return the string's length. No. So how it work is we have like an integer int length equals string.length. So it will return the length of a string named str. Or you can use, or we can use int length equals string.size. These two lines does the same work. Yeah. So we can kind of start writing the code if we get the approach. So the approach is reading the string and printing them with the abbreviation. So that's it, I think. Is Kara on now? Oh, okay, you're on. Okay. Just to see if you're in the meeting or maybe you will miss stuff. Okay. So yeah, these are other things. Don't remember to put double brackets after main because main is a function. So main is actually a function. It requires brackets after the word main. So if we miss the brackets, we may not be able to write a program. Yeah. Don't worry about the indent because the website doesn't work really well on the indent. So, okay. As we write the code, let's pay some attention to input, output, and examples. So the input, it tells us the line contains an integer n, 1 smaller or equal to n smaller or equal to 100. So n is between 1 and 100. There are only at most 100 lines. Well, how do you input sentence again? Oh. So here, that's important to note here. So let's see. When we check the input part, it states that they will contain only one word, and the word consists of only lowercase Latin letters. So there is no space bar or other special characters in between. And there will only be one word per line. So we can use CF for this. We don't have any space bar appear in one line, so we don't use get line. or you can use it if you want to, but CN is enough. Sometimes it's important to note the input format. If they state that there are only lowercase Latin letters, then there won't be any other stuff. Yeah. So let's check the input output to see if our guess is correct. So we get an n and we get n strings. Okay, so the output will be printing n lines. So we get n equals 4. We get 4 lines. Each line has a word. We output 4 lines. So word is smaller than, has a length smaller than 10. So we just output word. For localization, we output L10N, and that should work fine with this stuff. Okay. Yeah, so we can kind of start writing the code. So let's think. Oh, don't forget the brackets after main. It's a function. Okay. So let's see. We'll get an integer n, right? So we want to read n because there will only be n words in the input. So I want, let's see, I have the n. And I see in n because I want to read them as input. Because I want, so n lines of inputs. I want to, yeah. So there are multiple lines of input. We need to use a loop to read each line at a time, and we process each line at a time. And this is how we, yeah. How do you read a particular line? Okay. So it's important. I will say your question is important because, let's see, this is important to state. So imagine we have a program. Let's see. Imagine we have a program, so it will run in a command line, right? In something like this. So you will, if you are putting your stuff by hand manually, you will input for and word and localization. You'll do this. And it's the same for our program when reading from the judging system. So you have these stuff. It's the same as you typing each stuff by hand and start a new line. So your program will read for first, then you will read word, so how do I say that? So if it will go to the next. Yeah. So you can kind of think these are the texts that haven't been read yet. The program will read for, and it will read word, and it will read localization, and kind of doing that again and again. So all these tags will be read by the program, and by default, they will be read from the beginning to the end. Because when using cin, you are reading the first line that you can read, then you go to this, the first word you can read, or maybe the first number or so. Then you go to the second data that you can read, then the third data. That's how cin works. You can't just jump to which line and read that line. You have to read the whole thing first if you want to do that. Yeah, so it's important to note. So since we have n line, we want to process each line at a time. So when using, let's say, pseudocode, which is more like our natural language, we want to, let's say, read n, and for n times, we want to process each line at a time. So we want to check the length of this word. If length is over 10, we'll print abbreviation. Else, we will print the original word. So that's kind of our approach. We should get the approach before we write in the real code. It's important to note that. So, oh yeah, we'll read a string and create a string, and I'll create a string variable. Then we'll read the string and we'll check the length. We'll get the length. That's kind of our approach. We need to know the approach before we write the real code. Yeah. So maybe give some hint to Kara. We want to, let's say, we want to do this for n times. So before we do any processing, we first need a kind of a loop, either for loop or while loop, to make sure that we do this for multiple times. Then we do our job. So it's kind of like this. Yeah. Yeah. So we will read n for n times. So we'll create a string variable, read the string, or maybe I will maybe use this, or maybe use a big brace, kind of like this. We can kind of get some hint on how it works. So we want to read the string and check the length to see if it's over 10, then we will print abbreviation. Otherwise, we won't. And the job is done. So that's it, I think. And you can also kind of check how to make use of the function to find out the string length. How would you choose a specific letter? Okay, yeah. Okay, this is also a special technique. I mean, it's not special. I think I mentioned this, but yeah. So, as I said before, I will open a doc. Yeah, I will open a. Yeah, I will open a Google Doc for now to write those stuff. Okay, so we consider when we talk about string, I've said string is also a type of array in C++. Can be seen, Yeah, it can also be seen as a type of array. So we can, and each, let's say, and each character is an element. So if we have for a string, let's say string equals, oh, it just uppercase by itself. Okay. String equals word. String 0 equals, then string is word is W, and string, the second letter in the string is, it's just uppercase itself. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's what happened to this. And as we know, if length is the length of a string, we know that the index starts from 0. So the last character should have an index of, I will use length. It will has an index of length -1 because it starts from 0. So if we start counting from 0 and we count 4 times, it will be 0, 1, 2, and 3, which is 4 minus 1 for the last index. So the first character will be string 0. The last will be string n-1, where length is the length of string. Where length is, let's say, string.length. That's kind of how we take out the special characters that we want. Since we start counting from 0, the index starts from 0. Yeah. Oh. I think I will check if there's an kind of like online compiler. Is there an online compiler for C++? Yes, there is one. Okay, this doesn't work. I'll just use one. Okay. I will kind of write a program. We can kind of check how this works. There may be some bug and we want to fix them together. Oh, also important to note, when we talk about strictly larger, it is actually larger than 10. So it is number larger than 10. When we talk about strictly larger, it's just larger. It doesn't include, it's not greater or equal to, it's just greater than. Okay. Yeah. String. Yeah. So string. Okay. Okay. So I'll just wait for you guys to maybe finish your program. Let's debug my program to see how many bugs you can find. We will use the compiler to help us, because when we write a program, it's important to make use of the compiler. Yeah. Maybe you can read my program for a sec, so we can debug together if you're done writing yours. Are we all done? Let's start from debugging so we can kind of know what are the pitfalls that we may have to keep in mind. Let's just pause for a sec. Okay. Let's check the compiler. Tons of bugs. Okay, there are tons of bugs. So can we pause for a sec? Since we do have some important stuff. I mean, not we, but I just want to talk about some stuff. Okay. Yeah, so let's see. If we use a debugger, oh, this is not as good. The other one, I'll use the other one. It's more, let's say, educational, but we'll use this first. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the compiler will tell us some important stuff. This is this one. Okay, so for the first, it tells us there's a bug here because I forgot to add brackets after length, right? So after functions, we can't forget to add brackets. Okay, fix this. And we try this again. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Okay. So string f equals b0. It doesn't work. The reason why it doesn't work is, okay, so when we get a character through indexing, the type of the data returned is char, not string. This is important. When we get one character from a string, the character that we get is of type char because it's a character. It's not a string. So when we want to store string, it will cause some error. Or we can use substring, so we can get a single character with the string type. Both are okay. I prefer using char because char is even shorter than string, so it's shorter to type. So what I would do here is I will use char f and char l to store the characters instead of using string. Yeah, that's important. So we can just keep in mind, let's say, but So string x equals c, c is the char. There's also, if we try to debug, it will tell us many lines of bugs where we don't really understand. But when we want to read something, we'll start from C in or C out. So this is how we'll write them. If we want to use C in or C out, we'll either pointing to the variable, or we want to pointing out from the variable. So this is how it works. So here it shows the direction of data. So the data starts from C in, goes into variable, and when we outputting it starts from variable and goes to output. Okay, and when we want to store something store the character from a store character, we will use char type of variable instead of string. Yeah, but when we want to read a string, we just use string. We don't want to use char, because char here, it can only store one single character where it doesn't fit our requirement. Yeah. So if you do get time, you can kind of fix the bug. Yeah. Also, I don't suggest using length, because length is a keyword for C++. If you use C here, but you use length here, it will cause some bug if possible. So yeah. So I suggest like Kara. Yeah, Kara is, I suggest doing this like Kara, because Kara uses a variable for the strings length, where we should do that too. So I will use len for strings length. This is how we should write it. Okay. And also be careful when we have a character have a variable name n here, where it also named n here. The reason why is when we name two variables with the same name, one may overload, or we call it, yeah. Sometimes it causes shadow, because when we define another n, the previous n is overwritten by this n. So here we are using the new n instead of the previous n. So we don't want to define two, let's say, we don't want to define two variables with the same name that exist at the same time. So then the n still exists here, and we define another n here. It will cause some, I would say, unwilling result where we don't want it to happen, because we don't know what will happen to the program. Okay. And for here, when using if or using for, we don't want to have the semicolon after. We want to delete the semicolon. So for if and else, we don't want semicolon, because braces itself has already shown us how the code block should be. So you can see we don't have semicolon after the braces. We shouldn't have them, honestly. Yeah. So I prefer deleting the semicolon if you have one. Okay. And I prefer like changing the variable name, because the same variable name you may override the one before, which will cause some result if you do need to use the first variable again. Okay. And I think for the rest, it's fine. Yeah. I suggest switching to char, because I think string will cause some bug. Yeah, they do cause some bug. Overall, I think we are all doing a good job. Yeah. yeah, we'll have to change this to, oh, also don't forget the semicolon. Yeah. Yeah, so some hints. When we debug, right? When we debug and we will see, let's say it tells us B was not declared, but B was declared. So what actually happened? When B is declared, it's connected to the last line where the compiler connect these two lines together. So sometimes when we find a bug in a line, there may not be an error on that line, but beside it, so we can kind of go up and down for a few lines to see if we miss a semicolon. So which line may mix together, which will cause some bug that can't be located directly. Yeah. Okay. So do we wait? We don't have an, yeah. If you have a registered account, I will just use my account to send the code so we can kind of run the judges. Or if you have your account, that's fine. Oh wait, not this. Yeah, this one. So I will. Do you want to submit yourself, Glenn? If you do want to, or I can do this job for you guys. Oh, I know it doesn't work. Oh, because the semicolon here after the brace. Do you see it? The semicolon here. We have a few other issues. Okay, so let's debug together. Actually, for one, C1 for one says it's undefined. So we can debug together if we do find some bug. I think Kara's code should work fine now, I guess. So, oh yeah, sorry guys, I forgot this line. I shouldn't tell you. I should have tell you. Remember to have using namespace std, because many functions are defined in the standard library. If we don't use this line, we will have to do it manually. So we may have to, without using namespace std, we will have to write cout as std, double mark, what's this mark? Then cout and std cin. But with using namespace std, we will just type cout and cin, which saves us a lot of time. So that's why I will use this line in competitive programming. Yeah. And yeah, and for this line here isn't cooperating. Oh yeah, because for the cin and cout, remember this is the correct way. So you want to have cin on the left, also cout always on the left. You don't want them from right to left. Yeah, you want them cin or cout only at the left part. Yeah, and I think here, yeah, here 48 lines. You will see you use len, but the reason why I use len, because I use len to store the strings length where you C for it. So I suggest switching len to C, I think. Because you use len here, where len. So yeah, it's important to give your variables meaningful names. Names remind you its purpose. So if I use len for length and use, let's say, m for number, it will be easier to memorize, and you can turn into a hobby. I mean, into a habit. So whenever you use n, you will just know that you are executing the program for n times, you don't have to use different variable names every time. So that's kind of a pattern where we use I for first loop, and we use j for second inner loop, and we use n to count the many times we run the to, let's say, how many lines of input we have. That's kind of a general pattern, but whatever. You can use different stuff if you want. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see if I think mine works now. What about the semicolon? I think you should delete it. Right? Yeah, you should delete the semicolon. I think, yeah. I don't know if this will cause bug here, but generally we don't want semicolon. Usually it will cause a bug. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, cover is also fine in your code. Just to remind that when we change the name for a variable, we want to change it everywhere it is used. So if I change the string name to C, when I use C here, I want to also change N to C to make sure so whenever it's used, it's always changed. So you can kind of make sure there are no new bugs. So yeah. Also here, I think, because you read a string, you want to output the string, you want to use string, I think. You want to use the string's name instead of the old name, the previous name, I mean, yeah. Is your code working fine, Glenn? Yep. Okay. No errors. So we can just test yours first. We can also see some stuff. Okay, so we'll indent. Let it return 0, even though it doesn't do any rule work. Yeah. So, oh, wait, submit for the wrong question. Oh, okay, I will redo it. Okay. Wrong answer for test 2. Wait, let's see what happened. How could there be wrong answer? C minus. Oh, yeah. I think, yeah. I forgot to tell you this. So I was talking about this earlier. So when we talk about strictly larger, so in the question it says the length, when the length is strictly more than 10, which just means it's larger than 10. It doesn't include equal, so it has to be larger. Yeah. Yeah. I think if I submit again, it should work. So where is it? Yeah. Oh no, sorry, it doesn't work again. Wait, it should work, but there's another bug. So when we want to, I will just write it here. When we want the program to execute for n times, we will write for. So as I said before, when we start from index 0, we'll use smaller sign here, because if we start counting from 0 and we want to count 4 numbers, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3. The last number is still smaller than 4. It won't be equal. Otherwise, we will count for extra 1 times. Yeah. So we want a smaller. Yeah, and I think, yeah, and the larger sign here. If else, yes, I think it should work. And for Kara, yeah, there shouldn't be any. Oh, I think you delete the character. You should have put it back here because it's empty here. Yeah. Okay, your solution got accepted, Glenn. Okay. So when you get accepted, it means you've run through, the program has run through, let's say 50 test cases. Each has hundreds of numbers. So your solution is considered correct enough because they have cases for almost, I would say, all conditions. So there won't be situations where you have the wrong solution, but they judge you as accepted. That won't happen in this sport because you just get too many test cases. Yeah. So. Oh, okay, let's try. It's exciting here, actually. It's, yeah, okay. You both got accepted with the same time. You can see 31 ms is the running time your program costs. So, oh, because you are doing almost the same thing. Yeah, same approach here. So same time, yeah. So you can see the time use is really a little bit. So because 1 second, let's see, 1 second equals 1,000 ms, and usually the time limit is 1 or 2 seconds. I would say mostly 1 second. So it is 1,000 ms. And for question that you don't have to worry about time limits, they are considered usually easier than the ones you do have to consider the time limit because you have to solve the problem and make sure the solution fit in the time limit, which is just harder than simply solving the question. We've done a good job. Yeah. Do you want to save your code by yourself or I would just save them in the Google Classroom? Because you can kind of, I don't know, get some pattern once you write more codes. You can read through your codes and you will know what are the parts that I will write every time. So I will get familiar with them. And for other parts, you seldom do that. Yeah, so let's see, for a question like this, almost all questions we will read an N, which is the lines of input or maybe the numbers of input. We will also use for loop for each round every time. Yeah, and we will write return 0 for almost every program. Yeah, and we'll use int main for every time for sure, because without int main, we just can't execute the program. So these are the parts that always appear. So it's important to make sure you don't write the for loop wrong, or you don't write the main wrong, because it can cost you a few minutes sometimes to debug once the program gets larger and more complex. Yeah, I think that's it. This is, we've done the, let's say, the second program that we met. Okay, so we do have, before the, wait, how many times do we have? Yeah, I'll just read this question for you guys. You can bookmark if you want, add it to reading list, or maybe just, I'll post it in the classroom later. So this is the question that we want to work on for a few minutes now. And also when you do have time, you can read it, have some thoughts. So yeah, just before we end the meeting, we can kind of go through the model of this question first. So it may be easier for us to understand it. Okay, I'll just kind of starting a new lines. Okay, so these will be, okay. So let's just focus on the model now. The model of this question, I'll just draw a diagram for it. So imagine we have, let's say, a theater, which is n times n. So it's a theater like this. Yeah, n times n. And we have flagstone, which is a times a. Okay, we have a flagstone, which is a times a. We want to fill the theater with the flagstone. And we can cover the area larger than the theater. So if let's say, if we make the stone like this, we put a stone here, put a stone here, put a stone here, and the other stone gets out of the theater, that's fine. So we don't have to exactly fit in, because that may not happen if the number are not, let's say, dividable. Yeah. So we want to put a flagstone like this, like this, like this. Okay. Okay, so this seems to be complex, so we will start from an easier situation. When we have 4 times 2, and the flagstone is 2 times 2. How many flagstone do we need? You can just type in the website if you think you know. You can scroll down and type your thoughts here. Space out. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I will just repeat. Okay. Yeah, I would also repeat for Kara. Okay, so if we have let's say a theater which is 4 times 2, and we want to put flagstones to cover the whole theater, how many flagstones do we need for the minimum number? My graph isn't that great, right? It's the size is somewhat unrealistic, so it should be like this. Yeah. Okay, 2. Yeah. Sort of trick question. Okay, so what do we have? What if we have a theater of 4 times 4 and a flagstone of 2 times 2? How many do we need? Yeah, I think Kara didn't type her answer, right? Yeah, I think she just didn't type her answer. So yeah, it's 4 times 4 and a flagstone of 2 times 2. Yeah, okay. So let's think. So the number, let's say the number is no, when let's say when n, when, I don't know how to say this, but yeah, but if the, let's say if the theater is 4 times 5 or 5 times 4, and we have flagstone of 2 times 2, it will overflow here, right? So if we want to fill it, it will be like this, and it will get out of the theater for the last 2. Correct? Yeah. So when it doesn't overflow, the number will be m minus a times m minus a, which is the total number. Where it doesn't overflow, or it doesn't get out, right? So we can exactly fit in when it's n times m and the Blackstone is a times a. Are we okay with this? Okay, but if we overflow, so when in C++, when we do division, we'll get integer, right? We'll round down the result. So in C++, 5/2 is 2. Because the result rounds down. When it's not 3, it's 2 point whatever, it will round down to 2. But for here, we can see the numbers of Blackstone is 1, 2, 2 times 1, 2, 3, 2 times 3. So the numbers here is 2 times 3. Correct? Yeah. Okay. What if it gets out from both parts? So from both horizontal and vertical direction, it gets out. So if there's such a graph, if it's 5 times 5, and we have 2 times 2 as Blackstone, we'll have 1 and 2. Yeah, my drawing isn't wrong. So it will get out here, it will get out here and here and here. Correct? So 2 may not, so 2 times 2, which is 4 Blackstones, they cannot fit in. It's still too small. So we need to add 1 extra Blackstone on both sides. So it will be 9 Blackstones in total. Are we okay with this? Or maybe I should say this again. Yes? Okay. So as we know now, in separator called mod. So what it does is, so for, let's say, for mod 2, for mod 2 is 0. Because 4 can be divided by 2 without any remainder, or maybe the remainder of 0. But 5 equals 1. You kind of get what mod is, right? You just get the remainder of the division. So we can find a pattern. If from the horizontal direction, if m minus m mod a equals 0, we don't need the extra 1 Blackstone to fill the rest of the space. But if m minus m mod a is, let's say, not 0, or it's larger than 0, we need extra Blackstones to fill the remaining space, right? Are we okay with this? More or less. Okay. So if you have, let's say, from the horizontal, it's the length of 5, where you have 2 times 2 as Blackstone, you need 1, 2, and 3 for it, because 2 cannot fit in. If you have a still be 1 meter left, we have to add a third flagstone for the horizontal level. So if 5 mod 2, it's not 0, it's 1. So we have extra space left where we have to add another flagstone for it. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Yeah. But we know that in C++, five divided by 2, but we need extra 1 here, so it's 3. So we can find out a pattern. I will just write it down here. If n mod a equals 0, we need minus a on horizontal direction, correct? But if n minus a is not 0, n minus a plus 1. On horizontal direction. Because we need to add an extra 1 flagstone for filling the remaining space. Are we okay with this? Yeah, so same way in the vertical direction, right? And if we have, yeah, it should work on the vertical way, because if we just flip it, or I mean, if we turn it around, it's also the horizontal. So it's the same for both vertical and horizontal direction. We are judging them with the remainder. Okay, and let's think. So if we have 3 flex and three flagstones on vertical direction, we need 9 in total. So it will be, so the total number equals horizontal flex numbers. So let's say number horizontal times number vertical, correct? Wait, do we just solve the problem? So for both horizontal and vertical side, if the remainder is 0, we can just use n divide n over a for that direction. If we have a remainder that's non-zero, we use n over a plus 1. We have 10 equals n, so n equals 10. A equals 3. 10 divided by 3 equals 3, but we need 4 for the extra space, so we'll add 1 equals 4. So that's how it works. Do we have question on this? I think that's kind of the approach of the question. So if you do want to solve this after the meeting, you can write a program and maybe check the approach. I will copy the approach. I'll post the approach later. But if you don't want to waste your time on programming after meeting, you just want to get some relax or play some video game, I think. I'm just saying, okay. I don't want the program actually. I would just play video game later. Okay. I will still post the approach. You can solve the problem if you do get time after after school or sometime. Okay. So that's what we've done today. Just a quick review, and I will end the meeting. So or string dot str the string. I mean the string name dot length. String name dot size can get the length of the string, and we need to include the necessary library when we want to use certain functions defined by the program. And we want to use using namespace std to use these functions without writing the long prefix. Okay. And pseudocode, where we just think of the structure before we writing the real codes, can help us write less bugs, I think, taking less time. Yeah. And good job. I think good job for writing these programs. And I would say listen to my long lecture for more than 1 hour. It's summer, really hot today. Okay. We are done. You can, if you want. I'll post the meeting and the notes, and I think the approach for the question in the classroom. That's all for today.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Lots of work once again. Good job, my friend. Well done. And thanks to the participants, to Glenn and Cara. Have a good day, you guys.
See you.
So Kevin, next week is, because after that we're done.
Wait. Last week. Oh, wait. Yeah. Wait. What about June 16? I think we will still have classes that week.
We do, yes. Yeah, it's a pretty busy time for me though, because
oh yeah,
17th,
because it's the end of the quarter also.
It's the last day of school the next day, so I'm gonna have stuff I have to do for the office and everything else.
Okay, well, next meeting will be our last meeting.
Yeah, and you can just let everybody know, right?
Okay, yeah, I will tell them in the next meeting.
Sure. So we didn't see Tabichi. It's too bad. I was kind of hoping he might come out. It'd be good for him, but it's, it is what it is. So
yeah.
All right, Kevin. Well, hey, have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Yeah. See you.
Take care.